think we can go ahead and get started, Matt. So my name is Vienna Lenarduzzi, Study Abroad Program Specialist. I work in the Pavlis Honors College. We are over in the Minerals and Materials building. Study Abroad is just one of several experiential learning programs that Pavlis has to offer. You don't have to be a Pavlis Honors student to study abroad, but we of course encourage you to explore the option of joining the college. If you have any questions about Pavlis, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I can send you some information about that. But today we're going to talk about our global semester study abroad program located in Cyprus. And today we have Matthew, representative from Global Semesters, who will talk to you about the program. So take it away, Matt.
Thank you, Vienna. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. As Vienna mentioned, my name is Matt Spores. I am the enrollment manager here for the University of Nicosia's Global Semesters programs in Cyprus. I believe I am sharing my screen. Could somebody confirm that they could see my screen before I start talking about what's on it?
Yep, you're good.
Cool. All right, great. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cyprus. I like to start off with just kind of giving you some quick facts about the island. It's pretty common that Americans don't really know much about the island. I actually studied abroad myself in Cyprus more than a few years ago now. And I really didn't know a lot about it before my school told me about it. So like I said, I want to start off telling you about the country. I'll tell you a little bit about our university. And then I'll also go into some specifics about the different study abroad options that we have. So for those of you that don't know, Cyprus is a Mediterranean island. It's to the south of Greece and Turkey. If you look on a map, a lot of times if Americans do know about Cyprus, they think it's a Greek island. And it's understandable why, because it does look like it might be a Greek island when you look on a map. But they also speak Greek. They culturally definitely assimilate with the Greeks as well. They kind of consider themselves to be like the little brother of Greece, because it is the large landmass to the north. Cyprus is part of the EU. It's a sovereign country. Definitely a great fact for our US students is that as long as you have a valid US or Canadian passport, you are able to do obviously summer programs, but semester programs as well, without needing to get a visa, again, as long as you have a US passport. Again, a couple quick facts about Cyprus. It was ranked the safest country in the world for young adults to travel to. And that was by the World Health Organization. There's about 1 million people that live on the island. We get about 4 million tourist visitors annually. So we get about 4 times our population in tourists every year. The reasons being, again, safety is big, but it's also the sunniest country in all of Europe. It has over 20% of Europe's top beaches as well. So again, Americans might not know about Cyprus, but for Europeans, that is certainly not the answer. Most Europeans visit Cyprus at some point during their life to vacation, to honeymoon, or to retire. It's definitely a top destination for Europeans to vacation and travel to. There's about 12,000 years of cultural heritage on the island. One of the interesting facts that I think about Cyprus is the fact that some of the oldest known human settlements in the entire world are found on the island. And I just think that's really interesting because it is an island. You'll go through some places in Cyprus, and definitely another unique fact about the history of Cyprus is that it's the history of so many different groups of people. Again, because it's a smaller island, whoever the dominant power was in the region throughout history, and more broadly Europe throughout history, has always staked a claim in Cyprus. So they've obviously left their history behind on the island. You'll see ancient Greek amphitheaters that are still used today that have been excavated to put on ancient Greek plays. Right next to that, you'll see ancient Roman bathhouses that were used, again, right next to these amphitheaters from a completely different time period. In the capital city, what's called our old city of Nicosia, essentially before the Industrial Revolution, everybody lived in these surrounded by these Venetian walls. It's one of only 2 completely intact Venetian walls in the entire world. Inside those walls, the houses are a couple hundred years old, Ottoman Empire homes from when the Ottomans ruled Cyprus. So there is a lot of history on the island, and I think it's very unique, especially for the size of Cyprus, that there is so much history. I did mention that they speak Greek on the island. However, Cyprus is a former British colony. It was British all the way up until the 1960s. So because of that, over 80% of the population speaks English. And even that stat is a little bit skewed for our students. Again, I could tell you from firsthand experience, anywhere in Nicosia or the other large beach towns or other large towns and cities on the island, just about everybody speaks English. I've spent well over a year in total in Cyprus, and in the major places where our students are traveling to or obviously living in, like the capital, it's hard to find somebody that doesn't speak English. So it is really easy to get around. And I think that helps a little bit with culture shock as well, in the sense that, if you do get lost, you can always ask somebody for help, which I get lost all the time when I'm in Cyprus. So that's definitely useful for me as well. Nicosia, again, our capital, was ranked by the New York Times a couple years ago as the number 12th place in the entire world to visit. So it is nice. We're starting to get some name recognition here in the US, which is definitely helpful for us. Cyprus and Nicosia in particular is very cosmopolitan, very European. They're very stylish, fast-paced. Nicosia is a fairly large city with 300,000 people, but at the same time, it's still an island in the Mediterranean. Things still do run a little bit slower, even though it is a pretty large city. So it's pretty common for, the buses, they might be 5 minutes late. You didn't miss it, they're just not on time. So there definitely is this island time and kind of relaxed vibe to the island as well. Cyprus is definitely cost effective, especially when you're talking about other, popular study abroad destinations for US students. Whenever I'm talking to students about budgeting, I tell them really to budget as if you were here in the US in terms of food cost, transportation costs like taxis and Ubers and whatnot. Going out to restaurants, grocery shopping, all of that. It's very, very similar to, living here in the States. Even though they're on the euro, which, does affect, the exchange rate, it's still just about the same to live here as it is to live in Cyprus, which is really nice. Again, Nicosia is our capital. About 300,000 people live there. About 10% of those people, so 30,000 of those people, are college students. So by no means is it a college town, but the city is certainly accommodating to the college students because there's a lot of them, 10% of the population. So there's a very vibrant social scene. There's always something going on in Nicosia. Our coordinators, so if you go on a program, you'll get to meet our coordinators who live in Cyprus. They always are emailing students about things that are going on in the city, cool festivals that they could check out. And there's also 2 professional soccer teams that play just outside of the city limits as well. So again, there's a lot going on. Another quick fact about about Nicosia: we were ranked last year going into this year as the #1 small European city of the future based on human capital and lifestyle. Essentially what that means is it's a wealthy city and it's a very, very safe city as well. A little bit about who we are. The University of Nicosia, we go by UNIC for short. We are the largest university in all of Southern Europe that teaches primarily in English. We have about 14,000 students at the university. The breakdown is about 10,000 local students. So that is both our Greek and our Cypriot students. We have about 2,500 to 3,200 European study abroad students. And that number changes because the EU actually caps us at that number, because we do have a lot of students from continental Europe that want to study abroad in Cyprus. And then we get about 300 to 500 US study abroad students every year as well, both on semester programs, year-long programs, and summer programs as well. Some of our top programs, probably the most relevant to all of you, I had a chance to see your majors, definitely medicine. So our university is partnered with St. George's University in London. That's the second oldest medical school in the entire UK. It's where Gray, who wrote Gray's Anatomy, was actually a professor. So again, that's kind of the sister medical school to our medical school. Another huge aspect to our university is the fact, especially if you're going for a semester program, if anybody's interested, the fact that you do get to take your courses with the local students, because our whole university, again, is taught in English. Every year, every semester, there's over 400 courses to choose from. And again, the nice thing is that they are the same courses that our local students and our other European study abroad students are taking as well. So it is a very organic way to meet people. Our university system is very similar to the US university system, and that wasn't a coincidence. So we actually got our accreditation. We're a private university. There was no public university on the island. The government did not think that they needed to have a public university because Greece was right there. So when we got our accreditation, it was actually first from the United States. So our system was set up on an American model. So what that means for our US students is that, when you look at the syllabi, the structure of courses, the grading scale, all that stuff is going to be very similar to what you're used to here in the US. I'll show you a picture of campus in a second. Again, over 160 different degree programs, and we also have the largest international community in the entire country at the University of Nicosia. So we call this Unic City, the ever expanding Unic City. This picture is about 2 years old and it's already outdated. There's buildings that have been built since then that aren't even on this picture. So just a couple reference points here. These bottom 3 buildings right here were the first 3 academic buildings built on campus. This taller building in the left-hand corner is the first of 4 student residences that have been built. As you can see there, this one was completed. There's now 3 more that line this strip right here. This first one is called 6. This is where our study abroad students do stay. And I will talk a little bit more about housing towards the end of this. A couple other quick reference points just to give you an idea of the neighborhood. There's a huge 2-story grocery store right here. So it's about a 3 to 4 minute walk. A lot of these buildings are a mix of both university buildings as well as a neighborhood that has existed way before the university. But every year the university just slowly starts building up and taking over a lot of this neighborhood. But it still is a very nice and very affluent neighborhood surrounding the university. Just really quickly, a couple ranking things. So for business and economics, we're in the 300 to 400 level tier based on the World University Rankings this year. Another quick fact, so we are #1 in the world for digital currency and blockchain technology. We are the first to offer a degree in digital currency, the first to offer a course at all. We publish all of our degrees, computer science and otherwise, onto the blockchain. We're the first to graduate students in our digital currency program, and we're the first to accept Bitcoin as payment, as tuition payment. That was actually about a decade ago. All right, so I won't touch specifically on all of the different semester options. If anybody is looking for a semester program, I'll be more than happy to answer questions about courses. So I'm just going to very broadly kind of go over the areas where we have courses. So our semester programs were very strong in health science. Again, I mentioned that we do have a medical school at the university. So of course we have a lot of the prereqs that you would need for medical school as well. A lot of the courses have labs. For semester students, we do have a lot of health science students come abroad with us, specifically because the courses match so well. We're also very strong in science and engineering. We have courses in humanities and social sciences, different languages, communications, European studies, performing arts. We have music and dance. Our business department it's actually the largest school at the university. So we have tons of courses in accounting, economics. We actually have more chartered accountants per capita in Cyprus than anybody else in the entire world. Art and design, our architecture department is pretty well known throughout Europe. They win awards all the time, which is very cool. And we also offer summer programs, again, because I got to see your majors for everybody who had signed up for this. I'm going to kind of focus on those majors. So for our summer programs, I'd say it actually turns out that it's our most popular program is our pre-med program. It's very unique. It is a 5-credit program. 7-credit program. It's 2 courses. It runs from early June until early July. So obviously there's 2 courses, but there's also a lab attached to the 1 course. So the first course I'll just mention is called Management of Care. So it's a comparative course. It's talking about the different healthcare systems in Europe versus the healthcare system here in the US. It also dives into topics such as, how does a Northern European doctor deliver bad news to a family versus, a Cypriot doctor, so a Southern, European doctor, because obviously culture plays a huge role in, delivering care and delivering news. So again, that's the first course. The second course is the 4-credit course, and that is the special topics in clinical anatomy and skills. So this course is an anatomy course. So you have your normal anatomy lecture. So one day you might be talking about the neck region. They might be talking about a laryngeal carcinoma. What is it? How does it form? What sort of treatments are available? Then you'll actually get to go over for your lab component that day. You'll go over to the medical school's cadaver lab, and you'll actually work with full body cadavers. We do have a pro sector there. So you do get hands-on experience, working in the medical school's cadaver lab. So we do find that for pre-med students, this is a pretty compelling option because there really isn't much like that. I'm gonna go ahead. I think that's all I saw for the summer. I think I just saw students who would be interested in pre-med. If anybody is interested in any of the other options in health science, so physical therapy or nursing or pharmacy, just write in the chat and I will touch on that at the end of the presentation. So all of our programs, whether it's a semester or a summer program, are fully comprehensive. So within the fees for the program, your tuition is covered, your housing is covered, which again, I'll show you in a minute. 7-city tour, I'll talk about that as well. I already mentioned that we have coordinators. We actually have about a staff of 10 people right now in our Cyprus office that are just there for our US students. We have coordinators who you'll get their contact information. If you ever have any issues, if you ever need to find a doctor or you lock yourself out of the dorm or you just have a question, the coordinators are going to be there all the time for you. You'll definitely get to know our coordinators, Haris and Christina. Again, I mentioned that we have this dedicated team just there for our US students, 24/7 emergency support, insurance. We do orientations. I do pre-departure orientations. And then once you arrive into Cyprus within the first day or two, we have a really extensive orientation. We do welcome and farewell dinners. You get a local cell phone to use. So once you arrive, you get a little welcome bag, contact sheet with all the students and our coordinators, as well as the phone. So you can call home, as soon as you get to the airport, which is nice. Like I said, I do pre-departure advising. I work with students all the way up until they leave for the programs. So yeah, like I said, everything is pretty comprehensive with the programs. Skip over some of these things. A couple quick facts about scholarships. So for our semester scholarships, if you apply early enough before we call it our early deposit deadline, you have the ability to save up to $500. So if you know for sure, that your courses, are going to transfer back, you're 100% committed, you're definitely going to go. It's definitely beneficial to apply as early as possible because 500 is the largest early deposit scholarship. We have one later on that goes down to $250. So I definitely tell students to, plan early because it definitely can save you money in the long term. Same with summer. We have one early deposit scholarship. It's $250. And that one is, I believe we've already set that one for this summer. I believe it is January 15th. All right, I'm going to skip over some of the virtual things here. All right, so I mentioned a minute ago about our 7-city tour. So with our study abroad programs, again, whether it's a summer or it's a semester program, we include some built-in travel. This does not cost anything to do. It's all, again, already just built into the program fees. They all take place on weekends. They're never going to interfere with your coursework. None of them are mandatory, but I can tell you I've been on all of these trips multiple times and I would go on any of these trips tomorrow if I could. So some of them are weekend trips. Some of them are just day trips. We visit Limassol, which is actually the second largest town, second largest city on the island. As you can tell by the water, it's on the coast. So we visit an old marina, a very new marina. We also visit the old town of Nicosia. That's a day trip. Larnaca is the first place that you're going to get to visit in Cyprus because this is where the major airport is located. We do a day trip to Larnaca as well. One of my favorite beaches is actually in Larnaca because this is actually a picture of it. It's called Mackenzie Beach. You can actually just kind of hang out, swim in the water, just hang out on the beach and watch the planes come in, and they come in like right above your head because the airport's like a mile down the road. So it's one of my favorite places to hang out in Cyprus. The Throdos is a mountain range in the center of the island. I call this my ecological juxtaposition in Cyprus because a lot of the other pictures you'll see if you Google Cyprus, beautiful water, beautiful beaches. There's actually a lot of different ecosystems on the island. So we do a day trip to the Throdos Mountains. It's a beautiful hike. You'll get some gorgeous pictures. Kyrenia is a port city in the northern half of Cyprus. Another day trip. Lots of cool shopping. We visited a castle there that was in, I think it was a Final Fantasy movie. Or Final Destination. It was something like that. It was a really famous movie that came out, and they had taken a bunch of shots at this castle right outside of Kyrenia, which is pretty neat. Paphos is one of our 2 weekend trips. So Paphos is known most famously for 2 things. One is Aphrodite's rock, which is actually the picture that you're seeing here. It's this small rock here on the top left. Greek mythology says that Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, was actually born from the sea foam in Cyprus, which I always think is such a huge testament to the natural beauty of the island. I mean, everybody knows Greece has a lot of beautiful islands. So it's very cool that the goddess of love and beauty was actually born from the sand of Cyprus, which is neat. It's also known for some ancient mosaics that were uncovered that you get to visit. It's a nice sized town. It's a very relaxing weekend, but there's still plenty to do. Ayia Napa is, I would say if I polled every student who's gone on the program, this would probably win as the most popular spot of the trips that we go on. There is just so much to do in Ayia Napa at all times of the day. Ayia Napa is where all the tourists go. If you visit Cyprus, you visit Ayia Napa at some point. It's, you know, obviously gorgeous. It's on the beach, one of the top beach towns in all of Europe. You can swim through sea caves. You can go scuba diving if you're trained. You get ATV through nature preserves. Obviously, you can just like hang out on the shore. And then at night, it has a very vibrant nightlife as well. A lot of European and American DJs actually perform here in Ayia Napa. So that's a weekend trip. It's a 2-night stay. And we do stay at a 4-star resort on the water, which is pretty cool. Famagusta is another place we get to visit. You'll get to learn a lot about the history of Cyprus on the visit to Famagusta. Famagusta, for the most part, is actually a ghost town. It was annexed off. Nobody was allowed to enter since 1972. So what happened was Cyprus got its independence from the crown kind of on accident. There was a power vacuum. The Greeks tried to stage a coup to take Cyprus as a colony. It's part of mainland Greece. The Turkish did not like that. They then invaded the northern third of Cyprus. They annexed this town of Famagusta, which at the time was like the Ayia Napa of the day. There's a really beautiful coastline, actually like right behind this picture here. So we get to visit some areas that you're allowed to. Within the last 6 months, the Turkish government has announced that they are going to allow redevelopment of Famagusta, which is a pretty amazing development because nobody's been allowed to go in there for 40 years. They allowed a camera crew to go in there. A couple it's a really cool day trip. You learn the history of Cyprus. Potoras is actually on the same peninsula that Ayia Napa is, and obviously it's another beach town. I kind of laugh when I talk about when I talk about Potoras and Ayia Napa. So the locals, especially during the summer, it is beautiful in Cyprus. It is sunny. There's never any clouds. So when they actually look to turn on the weather, they're really just looking to see the wind. So depending on which way the wind is blowing, the locals will either be hanging out on the beaches in Potoras, or if the wind is blowing the other way, they'll hang out in Ayia Napa. They like perfectly flat water, and anything other than that is waves to them, which they're ripples at best. But it always cracks me up. But again, we do get to visit Potoras. I mentioned we visit Limassol and Troodos. And this last picture is of Nisi Beach. This is actually one of the most Instagrammed beaches in the entire world. It's in Ayia Napa, so you'll certainly get to visit there. Housing. So obviously the picture on the left is the zoomed in picture of that I showed before. So that's the student residences. Again, it's called 6. All of the all of our study abroad students stay here. We do try to keep all of our study abroad students in the same wing. They're all single studio, rooms. So you have your own bedroom, bathroom, kitchenette, balcony, all that stuff. But at the same time, you're still surrounded by the rest of our students on the program. They are absolutely gorgeous. This was not the housing I stayed in when I studied abroad. Obviously, this is very new. This is some of the nicest housing I've ever seen. Within the complex itself, there's a lot. There's actually a grocery store on the bottom floor. There's a coffee shop also on the bottom floor. There's game rooms, study rooms, different TV rooms. If you get a bike, there's a bike rack there. There's a gym again within the complex, laundry facilities, all that good stuff. So just to kind of explain kind of where you're at in the neighborhood. From the apartments, at most, you're about a 5 to 8 minute walk away from any of the buildings on campus, where you might have class or have a lab or anything like that. So it's all very walkable. I mentioned before, there's a 2-story grocery store about 3 to 4 minutes away. Restaurants, cafes, Euro stands, we call them gyros. Don't call them that, they're Euros. So yeah, all that stuff, is about a 5 to 10 minute walk. So in your day to day, you do not need to take public transportation. With that being said, a lot of our students do take public transportation to get downtown. Downtown is about 10 minutes from campus by taxi or by the bus. With your student ID, it's 75 cents to take the bus anywhere throughout the city. It's a very large city. That's definitely take advantage of that. To take a taxi, it's about 10 euros. So, to go downtown. Most of the time when our students are traveling, they're traveling in groups anyway, so you could divide that cost. So it's really cost effective. It's inexpensive to kind of maneuver the city. If you want to visit beach towns and things like that, there's intercity buses you could take very inexpensively. There's also shared taxis where they might pick up a handful of other people on the way to wherever you're going, but they'll drop you off again wherever specific address that you want to get dropped off at. So again, really inexpensive and just easy to maneuver the city and Cyprus as a whole. Independent travel. So obviously for the past couple semesters, this hasn't really been viable for students, but we're hoping that is going to change now. So obviously Cyprus is an island. The question always comes up, for a lot of students, this might be the first time that they're leaving the country. That was actually the case for me. I wanted to see a lot of different places while I was abroad. And that was certainly easy to do from Cyprus. Again, you're about an hour from the airport, from the residences to the airport. There's very inexpensive flights from Cyprus to continental Europe. I've been to most of these locations and I've gone from Cyprus, and my most expensive flight was about $150 round trip. And that actually wasn't to any of these locations, it was to Egypt. But we have students every semester come back and tell us, oh, I was in Prague this weekend. I found a flight for 50 euros round trip, or Greece. Students always find like 30 euro flights, to Greece. So again, I visited most of these locations. My most expensive flight was about $150 round trip. So it is easy to kind of jet set and travel all around Europe as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I am going to just stop on this slide. So if anybody wants to take down this information, the top number is our office number. It will ring directly to me. If I'm not there, somebody will be there to take a message. I'll reach back out to you. You can email our team at admissions@globalsemesters.com if you ever have any questions. You could also email me directly. My email is Matthew, MATTHEW, @globalsemesters.com. I'm always happy to chat. If you ever want to set up a one-on-one, Zoom call or a phone call, or if you just prefer to email back and forth, that is totally fine. And if you want to look at some of this information on your own, the site for our US students is called globalsemesters.com. So that's where you'll find, resources for whichever program that you're interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and unshare my screen. I see some things in the chat here. Let me see if any of those are questions. All right, so I did see somebody, I think, had a question. I think it was Vienna. I don't know if you were just referencing what I had said. You do not need a visa if you as long as you have a valid U.S. or Canadian passport. Even if you're going longer than 90 days, we have an agreement with the Ministry of the Interior of the government. So if you did try to go to Cyprus on your own or to another university in Cyprus, you would need to get a visa. But with our university, you do not need to get a visa.
Thank you for confirming that. I could have Googled
Yes.
it, but I was like, wait, did he say that wrong? But thank you for clarifying that.
Of course. Does anybody have any questions about courses? Anything else you'd like me to touch on?
I'd like to say a couple of things. So I actually was able to visit this program a few years ago. I was there in the summer. It was very, very hot, like 100 degrees maybe. At least it felt like it. But every facility, shop, it seemed like had air conditioning. So that was really nice. I felt very safe in the area. So where I was like for accommodations was like right across the street. It was in one of the student housing units. I think it was the apartments. And right next to that building was what I think is considered the mall or a shopping center. And there's a grocery store in there. It's a very big grocery store, had everything that you would possibly need. And there's a lot of coffee shops. I kind of joked, there was a Starbucks, at least there was one. And right across the street from that Starbucks was like a Ford dealership. So I was like, am I in Wisconsin? Am I in Michigan? Or am I in Cyprus? So that was kind of weird. So like a little Americanized things here and there, mixed in with local businesses. But I was very impressed with how safe I felt. I had traveled to Italy before. I think I was in Spain right before I got to Cyprus, and I've been to India. And out of all those areas, I felt, the most safe in Cyprus. It seems like a very close-knit community. There were some things about it that remind me of this area. So being surrounded by water was one of them. So obviously we have the canal and Lake Superior here. So things like that like remind me of home. And the people are just so nice. My taxi driver that picked me up from the airport when I first arrived, I saw him again a few days later. I was like, oh my gosh, like I never thought I would have seen the same stranger twice. And the campus, very modern. The cafeteria, holy cow. Like they had, I think, seafood on the menu, like lobster tails and maybe some prime rib and pasta. I don't know if they were just showing off because there was a lot of advisors like myself there, but I got the sense that that was kind of like a typical thing. And it was affordable too. So the currency is euro. And the euro is pretty comparable to US dollar. Of course, it fluctuates every day, every moment, but I didn't think things were too expensive. But yeah, the cafeteria, like that food was phenomenal. I don't know if you touched on this, Matt, like there's like an included meal plan or what the cost of that usually is per week.
Yeah, so there is no meal plan at the university. So we do have that cafeteria. It's a little bit different. So it's not kind of like the American, you have a meal plan with the Airmark food and you just kind of like walk in and eat. So we do have a cafeteria. We actually have a culinary department that runs it. So the students run it with the chefs. So the food is always very, very good like that. And it's run by the university. So, it's very inexpensive. So a lot of times students will go there for lunch. I still go there for lunch all the time. I love to cook, but I'll just go there because the food is so good. Like, you'd have to spend 3 times that amount to cook the same food for yourself. So yeah, students typically will go there for lunch or they'll grab like a gyro. So again, gyros are kind of like the pizza here in the States. So they still have pizza, but it's not American pizza. But if they want to grab something really quick to eat, they go grab a gyro. Everybody has their favorite gyro stand, just like everybody has their favorite pizza place here. Mine's Euromania. Like I said, everybody has their favorite. Again, there's a 2-story grocery store. So if you want to cook, the kitchen comes with pots and pans and dishes and things like that. You don't have to go and like buy a ton of stuff to cook for yourself. Everything is ready on day one. And there's other restaurants. And of course, there's like American fast food chains as well. So if you're missing home, you can stop at, KFC or Burger King or Pizza Hut. So there isn't the traditional, US cafeteria. But it's very, very easy to grab food just about anywhere.
Yeah, and you want it to be a little bit different. One other thing I just thought of is when comparing global semesters to like all the other programs that we work with, I think global semesters is like one of the most accommodating programs. So like on paper, this is like a third party provider, but it's also kind of like an exchange without the exchange. So like the university is very, very involved in this program, but there's a designated like group or like team or office of people who work on this study abroad program within the university. And I just feel like there's a lot of face-to-face time with the students and like the people who are running these programs. So they pay attention to the details. I think they probably listen to students' feedback. They built a whole new apartment complex that's just beautiful. For students, I don't know if those are available to our students in the summer, but I think
Yes,
it is
so
available.
all of our students are now in those residences. Yeah.
But like a lot of time is spent into making this like a really, really nice program and experience. And the city tours that you get to go on, there's, basically like a tour guide who was part of the program, and they have so much knowledge and history of the country and just, going way back into time, like the Greek mythologies, like just everything I think is just so well thought out. I just can't speak better things about it. It's just a phenomenal program. And if any of you are looking to go next semester, because I think some of you specified spring 2022, let's make that work. Our deadline for spring is October 15th. So there's still time to apply. And if you're looking at going in the summer for like the pre-med program, for example, there's still time to apply for that. So March 1st is our deadline. Matt has mentioned some of their deadlines, so there is still time to apply. Kind of shifting gears here, addressing COVID a little bit. So to give you an idea of how things are right now for Michigan Tech study abroad, we currently have 3 students abroad in Germany. So we had more students who have applied to go this fall, but unfortunately those programs had to be canceled because we don't support travel to level 4 travel advisory locations. So without looking at, I think Cyprus is a level 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would support travel to level 3 or lower, of course. So if you're kind of like, well, is Michigan Tech going to cancel this program? Just keep an eye on the CDC travel advisory. That's where we get our information from, and the US Department of State. But the bottom line is we can't support travel to level 4 where it says do not travel. We don't require students to be vaccinated to study abroad, but we are starting to hear of more countries requiring that for you to enter, and some program providers are requiring that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I don't think Global Semesters is requiring it.
No.
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's a personal choice to become vaccinated, but we encourage you to get vaccinated just so we know that you are going to be healthy and safe while you're there. So to give you kind of like a timeline, so looking at programs that will be running in the spring, and if things are looking good, October, November, even looking at December, there should be no reason why, can't run the program. So as long as it's under level 4, it's gonna be fine. And we can talk about this later once we have our advising appointments, but just to let you know kind of where we stand with COVID. I threw some things in the chat earlier in regards to financial aid, scholarships, the application link. So we use a software program called Via TRM. That's just basically a software program that allows you to browse all of our study abroad programs as well as submit the Michigan Tech study abroad application. So you will need to submit our application before you submit anything to Global Semesters, just for like a screening process. As long as you have a good academic and judicial record with the university here, there should be no reason why you can't get accepted or be approved to study abroad. And then I mentioned a thing in there about courses. So all the classes that Global Semesters offers, we have the syllabi for those, and we get those evaluated for Michigan Tech credit. So if you have HOS credit you need to fulfill, we can get those types of classes evaluated. If you want to take some STEM courses, same thing. So questions, thoughts?
So if I were to take like the pre-health courses that you mentioned, I think you said that was like 7 credits, would I be able to take like another course, like another class with that, or like some of the like something to fill a HOS credit? Or
So the 2 courses that I mentioned, a lot of times we'll have students who will only end up taking one of those, and we have other course options obviously available in the summer, more like elective courses, or if you have a minor, sometimes students will go and they'll take the cadaver course and then take a marketing course or international relations or photography or something like that. So on our end, we build out these programs, more so that it's easier to see what courses are relevant to you. But you couldn't take 3 just because it's only a 4-week program, and that's already pretty intensive, 7 credits in 4 weeks. So you wouldn't be able to add a 3rd course to that. But if, for instance, you didn't want to take the health management course and you were interested in, again, another course that we offered, you'd be able to swap that out.
that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, especially with that only 4-week time, it'd be difficult to take more. So the 2 classes that he's mentioned, those are equivalent to biology credit at Michigan Tech. So it's unassigned biology credit. So you can talk with your advisor to find out exactly how those credits apply to your degree. But you could take an online Michigan Tech course while you study abroad. That's always been an option even before COVID. So if there happens to be an online summer course during that time that's a HOS, take it.
So this might be a stupid question, but I know you said like 80% of the population speaks English. If they don't speak English, what do they speak?
Greek.
Okay.
Greek, and some Turkish, but anybody that speaks Turkish is also speaking Greek. So you'll hear Greek spoken. So like your typical day-to-day, you'll see signs in Greek and in English. All the road signs, Greek, English. And you'll hear Greek, right? So that is their native language, their first language, they're culturally Greek. That's what they speak. As soon as they see you, especially if they like hear you, but even at some point, like they just would see me and they would just instantly speak in English. And of course, if you were just like, hi, they're just like, oh, hi. Usually get questions because they'll know that you're not British because they speak like a British English because again, they were a British colony. So they'll look at you like, hi, like, where are you from? Like, I've started so many conversations with locals that way. They're like, where are you from? And I'm like, the US. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? But yeah, so Greek, but like I said, just about everybody speaks English. That stat it's a little skewed because there's still some remote villages where they just do not speak any English at all. So obviously the stats, it, kind of skews that. But honestly, when I'm in Nicosia, I can't tell you the last time I ran into somebody that did not speak any English. Once in a while, like the taxi driver might be like kind of like broken English, but it's still very easy to get around. It's not like, you're like pointing to things to like explain them. Just more of like talking slower. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I never felt like I had issues communicating with any of the locals when I wasn't with the group.
Yeah.
They know the basic English if they don't speak English mainly.
Any other questions?
One thing to throw out there, if you don't have a passport, get one now because the processing time is delayed because of COVID and lack of workers. So it usually takes about 6 weeks. I think it's doubled that time, maybe double time and a half. So get it now because you need that to go. And it's good for 10 years.
Do we need that before we apply or before we leave?
Before you leave.
Okay.
But you would, well, like Deanna said, that's something you'll want to jump on very early. Yeah, because the processing times are crazy right now.
And depending what airline you get your ticket through, they may require a passport number. Yeah. But oftentimes when you go to apply for a passport, I don't know if it's only when you renew, but I'm wondering if you would get your passport number before you even get your physical passport. I'm not sure what the
I think that's just when you're renewing.
Okay, renewing.
Yeah, so you would definitely need it. Yeah. If you know you're going to be traveling at some point in the next few months, it's definitely, regardless of where you're going, it's definitely a good idea to start working on that.
Well, I can be reached study abroad at mt.edu. So when you want to meet, we can do that physically, so in person or virtually, doesn't matter to me, but definitely reach out when you want to start discussing the next steps. Matt, if you want to throw your email in the chat. And we have everyone's contact information from registration, so I'll probably send up follow-up information at the end of this week or the beginning of next week. Matt will probably reach out to you as well with some general information.
All right, great. Yeah, thank you all for taking some time. I'm always happy to chat. Like I said, if you ever want to do a one-on-one session or if you just want to email me, reach out to me anytime. I'm always accessible.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you guys.
Go grab some dinner.
Have a great night. See you.
Bye.
Bye, Vienna.